Hello everybody, this is Books of the Stock Market. Hope everyone is doing well. This video is going to be a bit weird. I was interested in two topics but didn't seem to find the time to make two separate videos on them, so I decided to just lump the two topics together. The first topic will be on PSTH. So while doing research for the SPAC video, I found about PSTH. I've always read about PSTH on Wall Street Bets, but never really looked into it. However, while writing the SPAC video, I did some research on PSTH. The second topic I'll be going over is what happened to Bitcoin. We saw Bitcoin fall over 18%, and I'm going to go over what happened last week and what are my predictions for Bitcoin. Before we get into that, let's do a little portfolio update. Currently, Bitcoin is trading at the $54,000 level, but I was able to sell my Bitcoin at basically the top. I sold all my Bitcoin at $60,950 and withdrew the money. I withdrew that money because the Roth IRA deadline was coming up and I needed to finish contributing to that portfolio. In that portfolio, I bought some GBTC and I'm down around 10% on that trade. I believe I bought GBTC around 3 days too early. Anyways, for my Ethereum trade, Ethereum is currently trading at $1,680 and I'm only up 175.56% for now. I didn't sell during the dip or did anything with my Ethereum position because I firmly believe that there's more room to go. As for Litecoin, it is trading at around $180 and I did not add or touch this position as well. I have more doubts about Litecoin because it's pretty much a dead coin and it's not very popular in the crypto community. Furthermore, Litecoin is lagging behind the others a lot. It still hasn't broken out of its 2070 high, but other altcoins have already broken out and are doing price discovery. However, I still believe that Bitcoin will be able to lift all coins, including Litecoin, as we go further down into the cycle. With that out of the way, let's get into what happened the past couple of days. Remember to like, subscribe, and press the notification bell for me as it really helps the channel. The first SPAC we'll be looking at is Bill Ackman's SPAC. As we all know, Bill Ackman introduced his SPAC Pershing Square Tontine Holdings, and PSTH was formed to acquire mature unicorn companies and is worth around $5 to $7 billion. Although they didn't acquire any companies yet, on the website they did post 8 acquisition criteria which can give people who bought PSTH a better idea of which type of mature unicorn companies Bill Ackman is trying to get into. The first point is that they're looking for a company that has good cash flow, which is a point that Bill Ackman always reiterates in his interviews. Second, he wants the company to operate in areas with high barriers of entry so it can protect itself from competitors. Third, the company is isolated from extrinsic factors that can't be controlled, so this means that even if there is like an event like the pandemic, it is still not affected by it. Fourth, the company must have a strong balance sheet, which Bill Ackman also reiterates in his interviews. I believe this is the reason why he holds a lot of Hilton stock. The fifth reason is that he wants the company to have minimal capital markets dependency. This means that the company is already well funded and is not a company that needs to IPO to generate the necessary funds to operate. The sixth reason is large capitalization, which means he's basically looking for a company that will be added to the S&P 500. The seventh reason is an attractive valuation, so he's looking at a company that is not overpriced compared to the long-term intrinsic value of it. And finally, he's also looking for a company that's well managed, which is also a point that he reiterates in his interview very often. As you can see, the SPAC is very well funded and directed by a famous hedge fund manager, so there's a lot of hype around PSTH. However, it IPO'd at $20 and is currently trading at $24. That means it is up 13.48% without even acquiring a single company, which basically means the stock is rising on pure speculation. On the other hand, if we zoom out, it was once trading at the $30 range. At that point of time, PSTH was up almost 60% from its IPO price. So relatively, PSTH has lowered in price drastically, but is still trading at a premium. There are only rumors ever since the IPO, and ultimately, buying the stock now is like putting blind faith into Bill Ackman. Like I said before, we saw Bitcoin drop around 18%. Compared to the last dip, where we saw Bitcoin fall around 26% in just 7 days, this dip was more contained at 18% over 11 days. This in itself is pretty bullish price action as price has been rising constantly, but there's still a lot of buying pressure as we go higher. Other than that, there was a lot of FUD surrounding Bitcoin last week, so let's address all of them. Starting off the week, we had Powell come out and reiterate his stance that the government is against cryptocurrencies. He stated that cryptocurrencies are too volatile to be a good asset to invest in. However, that part is insignificant as it is obvious that governments don't want their citizens to use alternative payment methods. The important part is that the Federal Reserve is not in a hurry to make a central bank digital currency. Although the Federal Reserve wouldn't admit to this, they kind of tested it out recently. I believe the stimulus checks they deposited into people's bank account was a test to see how efficient the current system was. Can the current system handle moving on to a digital dollar when different banks crashed when the government was directly depositing the new rounds of stimulus checks into people's bank accounts? Probably not. His comments were even more interesting as we saw China really push for a digital currency. China has been aggressively going at it and is probably going to be a step ahead of most countries. China is pushing for a digital currency because they probably want to lessen their dependence on the dollar. More importantly, at the same time, they want the yuan to become the world's currency like the dollar. It is probably too late to overtake the dollar, but they can try and overtake it by becoming the most advanced digital currency. If this is obvious to me, then I bet the Federal Reserve is aware of this. So in the end, it was interesting that he wants to portray the US being more indifferent about the digital dollar. If the Fed did say they're working towards a digital dollar, then Bitcoin will probably be portrayed as a more acceptable form of payment by the mainstream media. However, this is not the case, and we saw Bitcoin push down further on Monday. For the rest of the week, we saw this news event really hinder Bitcoin's movement. Around $5 to $6 billion of Bitcoin options were expected to expire on Friday. This sounds pretty scary and horrible, but in the end, it was a pretty insignificant news event. However, this was probably the biggest FUD that was circulating last week. According to Deribit Insight, 4 out of the last 9 times where we saw a lot of Bitcoin options expire caused a correction. The other 5 times produced phases of consolidation. As you can see, this is not very bullish news. On the other hand, for quarterly option expirations, we saw Bitcoin rise most of the time. As a matter of fact, Bitcoin rose 77% and 85% for the last 2 quarters. In the end, we saw Bitcoin rise 1.2% within minutes of options expiring. In hindsight, this means that most of the downward move that happened the past week was probably due to the selling pressure from the shorts. So it looks like Bitcoin is probably going to make new highs and follow the trend of quarterly options expirations. Other than all the FUD, we saw the S&P 500 continue to drop throughout the week. Obviously, this pressured the markets. We saw the S&P 500 fall around 3% the past week while the Nasdaq 100 fell around 5%. The move downwards was mainly caused due to the usual fears of inflation and jobless claims. Currently, the market seems to be unsure if we can test the recent highs, with inflation and jobless claims being a continuing problem. Fortunately, on Friday, we saw the Fed state that banks that pass the stress test can start issuing buybacks and bigger dividends with excess money they have. This is pretty bullish news as we saw the Fed not extend the SLR exemption requirements. I made a whole video about this, so click the I button above if you want to know more about it. However, in the most basics of terms, the Federal Reserve was not going to extend lower capital requirements of the banks due to the pandemic. This is not a good look for the stock market as banks will be lending less money out as they have to meet the original capital requirements. However, with the Fed saying that banks will be able to buy back their stock and issue larger dividends, it lessens the pressure on banks. Off the news, we saw banks open higher on Friday, and banks doing well is always good for the economy. This move allowed Bitcoin to also move upwards as it wasn't pressured by the falling stock market. For now, we see Bitcoin is trading in a nice bull flag, and once we break out of it, I expect Bitcoin to test the recent high of $62,000 and then move from there. With that, I'm gonna end this video. If you liked this video and want to watch more videos like this, press the subscribe button. If you thought this video helped you in any way, like the video as it really supports the channel. If you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll try my best to answer the questions. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see everyone on Sunday.